Pokémon White's core legendary, Zekrom, has been pretty mediocre for the majority of its competitive career. Zekrom was actually pretty good in its debut generation, being ranked a B+ tier Pokémon in the Gen 5 Ubers metagame. However, in both Gen 6 and Gen 7 Ubers, it has fallen down to C+ and C- rating respectively. At first glance, you might not expect this. Zekrom's stats are good under Uber's standards. It has a solid attack stat, good bulk across the board, an average speed tier, and an amazing offensive typing. Yet somehow it has been rather awful, with the exception of Gen 5 of course. However, Zekrom managed to turn this around with its reintroduction in Generation 8, where it is one of the most fearsome wallbreakers in the tier and ranked a solid A tier Pokemon. So what happened to Zekrom? What makes it stand out, and how did it manage to go from underwhelming to a metagame staple? Zekrom's stats are on par with the majority of the Pokemon in the Ubers metagame. Its attack and speed are the same as that of the mighty Groudon, and its bulk is average too. This has its benefits but also its shortcomings, as we will discuss later. Zekrom is able to set itself apart thanks to its Dragon Electric Stab, which is a very unique typing, especially in Gen 5. And it's also a physically oriented Dragon type, which is quite rare. Dragon Electric is a great offensive typing that has no common resists, which can make switching into this combination quite difficult. Zekrom's powerful 130 base power Bolt Strike is able to shred teams apart, even those that have a resist. And this move can easily threaten common Pokemon like Kyogre and Ho-Oh with a one-hit KO. Thanks to its ability Terra Volt, which ignores the abilities of other Pokemon when attacking, it can even one-hit KO multi-skill Lugia, which is not something you see every day. Dragon Step also complements its Electric Step quite well, thanks to it hitting the many Dragon types for super effective damage, while Bolt Strike can hit the Steel types for massive damage. Zekrom can even deal with the two Steel types that can take both of its step moves, paired to an Excadrill, using a mix set with Focus Blast added to its moveset. This mix set is also great as it can use its respectable 120 base special attack stat to fire off powerful Draco Meteors to rip through physically oriented ground types like Groudon and Gliscor, which could otherwise pretty safely switch into it. Not to mention that the Draco Meteor doesn't lock Zekrom into a move like Outrage and does not lack the base power of Dragon Claw, making Mix Zekrom a very threatening wallbreaker overall. Zekrom is also a very unique choice scarf user thanks to it having access to the move Volt Switch. Volt Switch allows Zekrom to do significant chip damage thanks to the step boost, while providing momentum for its team. This makes Zekrom a great option for revenge killing faster threats that it could otherwise not outspeed, and also capitalize on a potential switch. Sounds very promising on paper, and it is a solid choice in Gen 5, don't get me wrong. Zekrom does however have many flaws and has even more in the generations to come. As mentioned earlier, Zekrom has an average speed stat. 90 base speed is a very common speed tier in the Ubers metagame, which means that Zekrom is constantly speed tying with other powerful Pokemon like Dialga, Gyarados Origin and Groudon, all of which can threaten it with a one-hit KO. Non-scarred Zekrom is also easily revenge skilled by faster threats like Rayquaza, Palkia, Pokémon White and Garchomp. Sure, Zekrom has Tailwind to turn into a great late game sweeper that can outspeed the aforementioned Pokemon, but Tailwind only lasts 3 turns after it has been used and can be taken advantage of if Zekrom is forced to click Outrage or Draco Meteor. Zekrom also offers very little defensive utility, with the most notable being a check to Ho-Oh. But even that is risky thanks to Sacred Fire's high burn rate and Ho-Oh often carrying Earthquake. The same goes for checking defensive Kyogre, which can threaten Zekrom with a Scald Burn. Zekrom's typing also leaves it weak to common attacking types like Ground and the aforementioned Dragon type, as well as Ice. This can make getting Zekrom on the field quite difficult, not to mention that Zekrom also has a pretty useless ability. In Gen 6, Zekrom had to deal with even more problems. Its formidable mix set took a big hit for multiple reasons. Draco Meteor got its base power reduced from 140 to 130, significantly reducing its damage output against the aforementioned ground types. Groudon is also on pretty much every team and commonly used a specially defensive set which can easily check Zekrom's mix set too. Zekrom was still a good choice carver with Volt Switch, but the set had its problems thanks to the introduction of fairy types. Both Zekrom's electric and dragon steps have a common type that can safely switch into it and take nothing, these being ground and fairy types respectively, which means that using a scarf set can be very prediction reliant and leaves Zekrom in a very vulnerable spot if it predicts wrong. In Gen 7 things became even worse. Sure, with Z moves it now actually had a shot at breaking through Primal Groudon, but it was typically outclassed by Zygarde Complete and Necrozma Duskmane as a Z move user. The usage of both Arceus Ground and Arceus Fairy also skyrocketed in this generation, which makes Zekrom very unreliable as a wallbreaker against defense of course, as it can be easy to play around, rendering it pretty much unviable in Gen 7. However, Zekrom managed to do a 180 with its reintroduction in Gen 8, thanks to a massive buff. In Gen 8, Zekrom gained access to the move Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance was a much needed addition for Zekrom, as with this move it could bypass its Spore speed stat, which has been power crept even more throughout the generations, and it also gained a boost to its attack stat in the same turn. With one Dragon Dance, Zekrom can easily threaten a lot of common defensive Pokémon, most notably the dominating defensive core of Yveltal, Necrozma Duskmane and Eternatus. Not to mention that it could shred to other tier staples like Ho-Oh and Kyogre. It also had plenty of opportunities to set up a Dragon Dance thanks to Yveltal being on nearly every team, and Yveltal cannot risk taking a Bolt Strike as it otherwise leaves its team weak to Calyrex Shadow. Roost was also a great option for Zekrom as it could set up more Dragon Dances against more passive Pokémon and now has a reliable way to stay healthy throughout the match, so it can come back later and set up another potential sweep. Not all is good for Zekrom though. Even after a speed boost, its base 90 speed was still speed timed with choice carvers like Kyogre and still outsped by choice carve Calyrex Shadow. Dragon Dance Zekrom still struggles against defensive Groudon and Ferrothorn as well and can be checked by Landorus Therian thanks to Intimidate and its ground typing. It does have some ways around its checks. Substitute with leftovers can be used over Roost to give Zekrom an easy time against Ferrothorn and an even easier one against Necrozma Duskmane, and Draco Meteor can be used to deal significant damage to both Groudon and Landorus Therian. Zekrom is also pretty much forced to use Dragon Dance as without a speed boost it's easily revenge killed by the many faster threats. That being said, it's for sure a Pokémon that every team needs to play around carefully. So what do you think about Zekrom and its rise from a pretty awful Pokémon in Gen 6 and 7 to tier staple in Gen 8 Ubers? Do you think it will be good if it returns to Gen 9? Let me know that below. Like the video and consider subscribing if you are new for more competitive Pokémon analysis videos like this one. If you want to support the channel even more, you can become a member and claim your unique niche in Gen 4 Ubers. Thank you for watching and see you next time.